I'm Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. Good morning and happy Friday. I am bringing to you another new episode, but before I start that, I want to let you know that I just created a new page on my website for all of you to have transcriptions of my podcast episodes, because I remember some of you asking for that in the past. So far I have transcriptions for the first 4 episodes from year 1 on there. I will keep adding more as I transcribe them and as they are available. Some of them may not be available on the page for personal reasons, but at least you'll have transcriptions for most of the episodes, and then you can read along while you're listening to the episode. That way it's easier for you to understand it. So today's episode is about NLD and music. As an NVLDer, I love music because it helps me to cope with difficult past experiences in my life, especially from my childhood and adulthood. I'm not sure if this is true for you as well, if you have NLD, ADHD, Asperger's, autism spectrum disorder, or any different neurodivergence diagnosis. You may also experience this as a neurotypical. Music definitely plays into our auditory memory and helps us with memorizing lyrics and pieces from the songs. The first article I'll use today is titled Guitar and NVLD by Michaela. And Michaela is from the NVLD project. She is one of the social ambassadors, if I'm remembering correctly. She is a lover of nature, poetry, and iced coffee. In her humble opinion, the only coffee truly worth drinking. She is naturally extroverted and thinks of herself as a people person. She is studying to become a social worker because she wants to be able to help individuals with learning disabilities just like herself. And so, quote from the article. In the summer of 2004, I was 10 years old when I picked up a guitar for the first time. I named her Gloria. I started taking lessons months later in 5th grade. I wasn't diagnosed with NVLD until I was 14, but back then it was known that I had some struggles with my fine motor skills. After practicing guitar, though, transitioning between chords soon became effortless. 6th grade came around. I was beginning to struggle more in school because of my undiagnosed NVLD. I was failing tests even in subjects I was good at in the past. Without an explanation to my parents, I stopped taking guitar lessons. I picked up Gloria ever so often to play, but it didn't feel the same. Until recently, I never really addressed why I quit. Looking back, I stopped taking lessons because I was losing confidence in my overall abilities, in part because of struggles in school. I picked up guitar again last year in 2018 after a hiatus. I still remembered most everything I learned years ago. Because of my visual spatial processing issues, it can be hard for me to learn to read music on my own. But I have increased confidence in my abilities now. I've posted some guitar videos to social media and played at several open mic nights at coffee shops, which has taken some courage to do so, I'll admit. Excuse me. I'm so grateful for everyone who has supported me. I'm 24 now. I graduated with a master's degree in social work very soon. Um, I wanted to be a social worker because I want to work with individuals with learning disabilities, and part of my job is to give advice. As cliche as it might sound, my advice to everyone is to never give up on doing what you love. As I wrote in my poem about having a learning disability, realizing its hidden talents and strengths. To my fellow NVLDers, everyone with any kind of learning disability, uncover those hidden talents and strengths like guitar. Water them and they'll grow. End quote. So I did try to learn how to play the guitar in middle school, but I never really stuck with it. I like singing better than guitar. It's fun, and I don't care if I'm good at it or not because I usually do it in the shower while I'm working or cleaning or driving, so I'm by myself most of the time, and the only one who can hear me sing is myself. I think Michaela has a good point about watering your hidden talents and letting them grow because you may never know what you're capable of unless you try and nourish them. The second article I would like to share with you is titled, I Have ADHD, a Nonverbal Learning Disability. What strategies can I use to improve my guitar playing? By Zemarus 9. And it is from Reddit. Quote, last year at the ripe age of 23, I was diagnosed with ADHD, primarily an attentive type and nonverbal learning disorder. I am pretty sure that these conditions are the cause of most of my guitar difficulties. For those of you unfamiliar with NLD, nonverbal learning disorder, it essentially means that my verbal intelligence greatly outstrips my spatial slash procedural intelligence. My verbal intelligence is way above average, while my procedural intelligence is barely average. As a result, I pretty much have to conceptualize everything verbally. From a technical standpoint, I'm not a terrible guitar player. However, I cannot learn a song to save my life. Even learning simple stuff, for example, some riffs or a guard tune, is an extremely difficult undertaking. I cannot look at a piece of music and interpret rhythm at all, even with Guitar Pro playing it back. It still takes me a really long time to learn some riffs, simple riffs. I can play in time with a metronome, but even simple variations in rhythm baffle me whenever I try to learn something. I'm pretty sure that dotted notes may be some kind of witchcraft, and swing rhythms are theory unproven by scientific community. Guitar Pro makes it almost possible for me to almost learn something, but in order to play something more complicated than 16th note palm muted chugs, I have to break out the metronome and work it out literally one beat at a time. Maybe my Google foo is weak, but scouring the internet hasn't yielded much useful information. I really hope someone on here can help. Bottom line, I'm technically competent guitar player. I can't learn a song to save my life. I'm pretty sure it may be due to the fact that nonverbal learning disorder learning music makes it learning music really hard. Close quote. So this is a good article because Zemeris 9 is asking for advice from fellow neurodivergents on how to improve his guitar skills or their guitar skills because they're not sure how to. They don't quite get sorry. They did get a few responses. Um, One said to be more patient, try learning other instruments if guitar is too hard, and practice daily for an hour. Another one suggested using their verbal skills to help learn songs and rhythm. And one other one suggested using a DVD that had tips on learning to play the guitar. These are all good suggestions because they are aiming at talents of NLD and ADHD, verbal ability, audio memory, and focusing on one thing at a time. I use music when I exercise to help me focus on the task I'm doing better at. It helps me keep a constant pace when I'm running and jumping rope. It also helps me when I'm creating podcast scripts because sometimes I use the songs to help me write them or as part of the episode. And also with music, it helps me it what I want to try to say is that it helps me focus while I'm working, and it kind of feels the silence because I don't know if this is true for any of you, but it feels weird to work when there's no music on for me. I don't know if that's NLD or something else, but that's true for me. And being able to, have music going on in the background helps, even if I don't pay that much attention to it. And it also helps with my emotions because if I'm really angry or if I'm really sad or just kind of bummed and I listen to some happy music for a little bit, it changes my mood and it helps me feel better about myself and the situation that I might have been in previously. And I think it also helps us because even if we don't write songs for music, it helps us to kind of hear other songs that have been written and to try to relate to them and be like, this is what it makes me think about in my life, and this is why I like this song, and to try to decipher it and have fun doing that, and be able to use it to that advantage and be like, hey, it's a creative piece of music, and it's showing creativity because of where it can be used. So, if you think about music, it's not only used in songs, but it's used in movies and it's used in plays, and being able to use it on TV as well, and just bring the story to life from the song and from the movie, I think is kind of cool. So I want you to think about how music plays a part in your life, whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, and maybe journal about it and see how it has changed your life when you've been going through challenging things in your life, and how it's been like a therapy for you. I know it's been a therapy for me in terms of just helping me when I'm exercising and helping me enjoy the exercise more, and running and being able to keep my pace consistent while I'm running because I'm using music that I kind of base my pace off of. And to be able to realize that I might be able to get some emotions out while I'm running if I imagine a punching bag that I can move as I'm running and kind of pretend to punch it with my fists. And that helps because you are not only listening to music at the same time as you're punching the bag, but you're trying to get your emotions out in a healthy way. And so I thought I'd share that with you. So I hope this episode helped with learning more about your music or hidden abilities and with improving them. Water them and nourish them with consistent practice, and who knows what you can achieve when you set your mind to it. You might be able to run a half marathon in under 2 hours, memorize song lyrics or lines from movies really well, or maybe learn how to play a musical instrument. I also wanted to let you know that I started a Patreon account for this podcast to try to get some more revenue from it. That's not the reason why I started this podcast, but I'm trying to get some revenue from the podcast because it will help me keep it going. So if you are willing to donate even $1 or $2 or $5, whatever amount is comfortable for you, to Patreon for Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, that would be appreciated. You can also use Spotify to donate money, and you can also use BetterHelp to donate money with clicking on the link and becoming a customer of BetterHelp. So those are 3 different ways you can support the podcast, and I hope that you will choose which way works for you, and that you will choose which level works for you as well. And I hope that you do it because the podcast helps you also, and that you are willing to support me in continuing to produce it. Thank you. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/. I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.